Christmas? Do we need some Christmas stuff? I was on a call with a Jehovah's Witness this morning, so I was trying to sort of tone down my Christmassiness or not. But I did have my Christmas. Someone's pulled a blind down on me because I've got people at home at the moment. But I did have my Christmas tree. I'm going to show it. I'm going to show it off.
Ooh, that does look
James is putting
cheerful.
out laundry right behind my blind. Hence the blind. We want to see the Christmas tree. I don't see the laundry. Okay, you carry on. You carry on. Hello.
Uh,
Who has Christmas stuff? We have our Christmas jumpers on.
oh,
Who's just come in?
I
Guy, Stuart, did you just miss what happened?
right.
I said, I'm
We
going to
did.
open the blind so you can all see my Christmas tree. And James was there hanging our pants on the laundry.
Oh, that's brilliant. I missed that. Tell him
Yeah,
to
we
do it
missed
again.
it.
Can I see it again?
No, you don't want to see our pants.
All
But it's
right.
probably recorded.
All right.
So funny, so funny. Hello, hello, everybody. Hi, Stuart. We
Hello,
missed you
hello.
last time, Stuart. Where were you? Anywhere exciting?
Yeah, I was at a Gather event, the Gather Movement event in Oxford. Paul Williams was the speaker.
Mm.
So I've been invited, and as it was a CEO invite, I didn't feel like I say no.
Lovely.
Was it?
Any takeaways?
Um, yeah, it was quite academic, but it was good. It was oh, hang on a minute. Hang on a second.
It's
Yeah,
Leander.
that's
Is that
right.
telling us Stuart and Beth are in the same room? That was going to be my
Yes,
Ah,
yes, we are. But I think it's just us. I'm not sure if Matt's in the building, but I don't know if he's joining us.
Stuart, was there
Yeah.
any Catholic Latin?
No, there was not. There was not.
All right.
I'm surprised I got a laugh from that. Um,
There was a combination of Bible readings at our Christmas carol service last week, Laura and Claire,
oh
and
yes.
there was probably about 20 different languages. And near the end was Stuart, who was sharing Latin, but on the screen it said Catholic Latin, and he went, not just Catholic Latin, Latin, Latin generally, and everyone enjoyed it. So
Oh, lovely. Catholic little C.
yeah. I wasn't expecting a laugh, but I think I got the biggest laugh at the service. I think so.
I
Oh,
think you did.
Stuart.
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's so nice. Anyone else? Has anyone been to anything that's been really lovely, has made you, or watched something, or are you feeling Christmassy so far? What's made you feel Christmassy?
I can highly recommend the Bath Christmas Market. We popped in there briefly a few weekends ago. What I liked about it, and I don't know if this is normal, it feels like it's just spread out all over the town. So there's not one like congested mosh pit of people like fighting over things. So, and
Ah.
Bath's just so beautiful in the evenings, and it was lovely to wander around and have
Yeah,
a
I was there recently. I found myself thinking, I'm so glad that they were really rigid about planning because
Mm.
it is this toy town, isn't it? That everything matches. It's just incredible. It's so lovely.
Mm.
Kate, that's so nice. I'm going to try and schedule that in for next year. I don't think we can manage it this year, and it's only down the road.
Yeah.
Anybody else? What have you been up to? I've got probably a minute or so before we dive in. So,
I went to see Mumford and Sons last Wednesday,
Oh,
is it
that
good?
sounds good.
which was pretty crazy.
Wow.
Um, it was absolutely rammed, obviously, as you expect at the O2, but I've not been to a concert for a really long
Wow.
time. So it did feel, even though it's obviously not festive music, it felt festive
Mm.
because all their
Yeah.
stage lighting was sort of fairy lights and they had it all across the stadium. So it was really good.
Oh, wow. That's so lovely. And are they still brilliant? Because I saw them a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah, they are. There's a lot of songs that I didn't actually recognize. Some of
Mm.
them were new. Some of them may be more album tracks that I wouldn't have known, but I know a lot of their stuff they've released
Hmm.
as singles and stuff. But yeah, they did the classics that you would recognize.
Love it. I love it when they do that. It's really annoying when you go to see a band and they just won't do any of the old stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really
Yeah,
upsetting.
I would have been disappointed because they were sort of went off.
Yeah.
They always come on and do an encore, don't you? But there was
Yeah.
one particular song that was my favorite one, and they hadn't done it yet.
Oh,
No, you can't. You can't not do that one. And that was their encore. So
oh, Katie, it was
I was
just for you.
satisfied by the end of it.
Love it. So she was at a concert last night and she was the first in the call today. I love
Last
it.
week, not last night.
I said last night.
Hang on. You were in this call since last week. That is crazy commitment.
I love it. Right. Speaking of commitment, we're going to dive in straight away. So I hope you've enjoyed these sessions the last couple of weeks. Brilliant timing before the Christmas holidays, talking about our weapons and what triggers us. Because I don't know about you, but I always brace myself as you come into the Christmas holidays to think, right, how can I make sure I'm showing up as healthily as possible with my wider family as I possibly can? Because I think if there's ever going to be a time in the year when tempers can be frayed or people can offend one another, it could be Christmas, even though there's also so much potential as well for good. So this is great because we've got an opportunity now to be intentional about how we show up, not just at work, as a lot of this application is at work, but also in our own homes and in our own families as well. So let's dive into the content for today. And we're going to kick off with this mindset from Proverbs 14, verse 1. And if you'll forgive me, I have paraphrased once again using some leadership language. So from Proverbs 14, a wise woman or intentional person builds their house carefully, but a foolish woman or accidental person tears it down with their own hands. A wise woman builds their house carefully, but a foolish woman tears it down with their own hands. And I don't mind that it mentions woman there because the Bible is so full of applications for men and for women that I think it's okay. It's not just saying that women can be foolish. I think we can broaden this just as we might do the other way around. So what does it mean to tear down the house you've built with your own hands? Well, it means that in a moment of madness or in a continued decision of the hardening of a heart, we can actually destroy something we have spent a long, long time building. And that can be very, very true in relationships. And I just resonate very much with this because I'm a pioneer. And so my weapon system is a very big one. And we're going to come to that in a minute. In a moment of madness, I know that I can do a lot of damage. And that's true, actually, of all of these weapons. And that's why we call them weapons. We call them weapons because they can do damage. But let's just start out by saying that our weapons are the inversions of our strengths. So whenever you look at a weapon, let's not look at it with dread or with shame, but let's look at it as, I am really good at this. And that's why I just need to be intentional that I don't use the weapon in the wrong way. So hopefully this will be a second draft of going through this, and hopefully that it will yield some extra insights on the back and building on what you've already done in your own private study on the platform so far. All right, so I hope that whets your appetite to dive in to the first weapon, and it's a big one. It's the grenade launcher. That Pioneer has the capability of really having a large impact. That's really what they're wired for. If you're a pioneer, you have just grown up in your mind, always scaling things up, thinking, how can I have the biggest impact for good, if you're a benevolent pioneer, as possible? Let's get to the root causes so that the most people possible can actually benefit. And that means that when the pioneer is stressed, when the pioneer is caught off guard, or when the pioneer is deliberately triggered or accidentally triggered, they can have a huge impact as well in the negative. They can literally blow things up. So an example of that might be a team leader that is, the results have just come out and the team is looking bad and people are pointing at the team leader and they want to go in and they want to cause havoc and they wreak havoc. They don't just take one person out, they take out the whole team. You know, never mind the things that people are struggling with, never mind the progress that has been made. You know, you're all a load of rubbish. You know, they will make great big sweeping statements and take everybody out. What does that look like for me at home? It looks like bearing with my family when the house is, getting a bit shabby, looking a bit of a mess, people are leaving things lying around and bearing with it, putting things away myself. And then suddenly, right before everybody's off to work or school, I can suddenly go, this is ridiculous. I am fed up. Nobody does anything in this house except me. You leave it all for me. There's shoes everywhere. So it's huge exaggerations, lots of big sweeping statements, and everybody is left completely disheveled on their way to try and have a whole day of working or at work or at school. So that's what it can look like in our home. I've gone bright red because I am aware of how big that can be, and it's something I always want to watch. So that's the Pioneer's grenade launcher. They can also be called a bulldozer as well, and sometimes we use that language because a grenade launcher can be quite violent. What about the next voice, the connector voice? Well, as it was explained on the video by Steve, the connector's weapon of choice is much more subtle. Okay, they reckon they don't want to be the one that everyone can see is losing their stuff. So the connector is much more careful. The connector may feel quite triggered by someone or something, and we'll talk about triggers in a minute. But instead of blowing up in a visible way, they will sidle off and have a quiet word with one or two other people, especially if they know that those other one or two people are already a little bit irritated with that person that's just triggered them. I'm just going to drop something in, I had a friend growing up who always used to say, I'm not being funny, but don't you think that so-and-so is doing this? That was her phrase. I'm not being funny, but, and it's just having these little phrases, these little subtle ways of just dropping hints. But actually it sounds harmless. It's really harmful. What it does is it creates a sort of toxic secondary culture. And what can happen is that connector, because they're very sensitive, they know what they're doing. And that person on the other end of it can probably start to sense that suddenly people aren't quite so warm to them as they were before, or there's sort of something not being said, and it can freeze people out gradually over time. And it really can be deadly. It really can mean someone has no choice but to actually leave because they're just not welcome anymore. So that's the connector's weapon of choice, this sort of cyber warfare. Remember, Steve said you'll probably relate to at least two of these, not just the one that's your main voice. So have a look out for which ones are your main ones. So it's cyber warfare. The Guardian, our third voice that we're looking at today, has, remember, as their strength, they have this ability to troubleshoot, to ask the difficult questions, to proofread something and to make it stronger. So what happens when they get triggered is they go into overdrive and it becomes like an interrogation chamber. So peppering questions at somebody. Email is often their chosen medium, and they will fire off an email very quickly that can be really offensive. And it's important for the Guardian to recognise that they can be right and wrong at the same time. Right in what they're saying, but wrong in the way that they are delivering it. It can really just destroy any relational trust that has been built up, because suddenly no one wants to be on the other side of the Guardian. Suddenly they are on guard and they think that I've just been treated in a way that's completely dehumanizing, like an interrogation chamber. Nobody wants to get in the room with them again. So that's why the Guardian's weapon can be deadly. It's interrogation. Creative voices. We have two kinds of creative. The creative thinker, or we also call it the creative pioneer. That's the more head-led of the creative voices. And their weapon of choice is laser-like critique. So remember that team leader who I used as an example of the grenade launcher, trying to take everyone out all at once, that pioneer. The creative pioneer is often quite quiet. So the creative pioneer team leader might go into the team meeting and they'll be asking questions, looking around the room, because they're trying to find the weakest link. They don't want to take out the whole room. They just want to take out the person who has brought them down. They want to get rid of the weakness. So think of them like a surgeon trying to take out the unhealthy cells and none of the healthy cells. They just want to go for the real bit that needs to be taken out. And they might just look around the room and they'll be like, it's you. I'm sorry, Neil, you've got to go. You just go, pack your stuff and just go. And suddenly it leaves everyone going, oh my word, well, that actually wasn't really that fair, because it wasn't just Neil, because it was all, we all had a role to play in that. And the way it happens just seems very, very cold and calculated. So that's the weapon of the creative pioneer. It can be so helpful when it's targeted in the right way against something that does need to be taken out. But when it's used in an inappropriate way, it can be deadly and it can destroy all connection within a team. So that's the creative pioneer. And then we have our creative feeler or our creative connector. And the creative connector is in the passive aggressive group of the voices. So passive, they'll wait, they'll be quiet. They're usually a massive team player, really high on the value stakes. They'll let things go, and they'll build up. And then suddenly, with an appropriate trigger, they will blow up like the Hulk. So they'll completely Hulk out. And once they start to Hulk out, there's just no control. It's not normally directed at a person, it could be, but it's directed at an organization or at a system that's unjust, or at something that just isn't right in terms of the values of the organization or the family. And they will just go. And actually, a bit like when you watch Hulk movies, there's no point getting in the way. The only thing to do when someone starts hulking out is to literally get out of the way. Don't try and stop them. Just let them have that moment. And afterwards, they will be quiet. They will be exhausted. You know, a bit like, I always think of that Bible story where you have the guy that has all the demons, and he Jesus casts them out, and then he sort of sits there. He's sitting there in his right mind, fully clothed. You know, it's that sense of the calm after the storm. So it can be really hard for the creative connector to get cross because that goes so against their value system, but they just can't help it at times, and it's usually for a good reason. Then we have our nurturer voice. And as Steve said, it's really hard to understand the nurturer having a weapon system because they're often always thinking about others, always bringing practical help, pastoral care to others. And they have that first aid kit where they always can give to each person exactly what that person needs. But their weapon can be no less deadly. When they feel triggered sufficiently by somebody, they can literally freeze them out, either completely or partially. They might just send them to Coventry, stop speaking to them altogether, or they might just become functional in that relationship, more likely. A bit like getting a lovely Christmas card with all of the lovely things about you in it, and then the following year you just get to Laura from Bob, and you think, what's happened? Something's gone wrong. They've left the building. Their heart, their emotion has left the building, has left the relationship, and they withhold their care, perhaps just in one area, perhaps in a number of areas, but it can be really cruel when left unattended. It can feel very, very cold to the person on the other side, and there can be a manipulative element to it as well if the nurturer isn't careful. So it's something to watch out for in all of us, but hopefully you've been able to tell, as we've gone through, which your two weapons of choice might be. What are they? And what I want you to think about is, how does that show up for you? And when does that show up for you? So here is a sort of, you might want to take a little photograph of this with your camera. In fact, that would be helpful. Can you take a screenshot of this somehow? Because these are the things I want you to discuss in your little breakout room now. Is which are my weapons? Which are my weapons? Which of the 5 weapons are my 2? And when am I most likely to deploy those weapons? When am I most likely to deploy those weapons? Okay, everyone, give me a thumbs up. Have you got a screenshot of that? Happy? Amazing. Well done, everybody. That's amazing. And they're just summaries of the content you've already digested and looked at. Okay, any questions about the weapons? Anything need clarifying? Does that make sense? Is there anything somebody doesn't understand so far, or is it clear? Amazing, great. Well, I can't wait to hear back from you, but let's chat in our 2s. First of all, 2 questions. Which are your weapons of choice? And what are the stress triggers that make you most likely to deploy them? Off you go. See you on the other side. Thanks, guys.